again for rejoining me on the program TMI Monday. We've got in the studio Reverend Olu Martins. Reverend Martins, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Compliments of the season.
I also have joining us Reverend Tony Akeni. Many thanks for joining us.
Evangelist.
Okay, all of them join though. Evangelist Tony Akeni, thanks for joining us on the program.
There is a difference.
And I have Bishop Austin Igbasan. Bishop, many thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're looking UK all the way.
Yes, you just have to come out.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let me start with you, Reverend Olu Martins. The election is just around the corner. There are questions surrounding the credibility of the process. Why are these questions coming up, and why are people concerned about whether the election will be credible or not? I mean, despite the fact that there have been several assurances coming from the umpire itself, INEC through the chairman, Professor Yakub Mahmoud, and then from the presidency, even President Buhari at several forums has said that this election will be one of the freest, fairest, and most credible, if not the freest, fairest, and most credible election we've ever had.
Thank you again. Let me appreciate this platform, ITV, for the very topical issues and its attempt to indeed play its role as the fortress of the estate. Going straight to the issue that you have raised, democracy has a twin sister, and the twin sister of democracy is the rule of law. That's why it's called democracy and the rule of law. It's not democracy and the whims and caprices of an individual. It's democracy and the rule of law. And that's why Mark Twain says that there are only two people who can find a government. It was Patrick Henry indeed that said, the government and the criminal are not different. The only difference is that we must use laws and the constitution to hold the government bound so that the government doesn't become a legitimate criminal. That's the difference between the government and the criminals on the street. The law, we must use the law to checkmate the government. Otherwise, government all over the world without the law will become legitimate criminals. And that brings us to the issue of the Electoral Act. And there's been no small hoopla or furor over the signing and non-signing of the electoral law. As a matter of fact, I heard the spokesperson of the APC campaign organization, this very learned senior advocate of Nigeria, quote an ECOWAS convention as to the proximity of signing such a law with regards to the nearness of the date of the election. And we were quick to tell him that the same ECOWAS gave us a court, and the court of ECOWAS had said unambiguously that Dasuki should be released. And the response of the presidency with regards to the release of Dasuki clearly shows that they have constituted themselves into a law. So you can't now choose one ECOWAS convention or one ECOWAS treaty above the other. It's not what we do, tombo. That's not what we do. It has, if you are going to follow it through, you are going to follow it through. So the suspicion for the 2019 election is because it looks like a dramatist personnel. And we need to quickly say this, that the presidency is involved in the whole of the process. I have listened to Clement Wanko, who is the convener of the Civil Society Election Situation Room. And I have listened to Ezewagu and a couple of other people. Election is multi-sectoral. There is the INEC, there is the civil society, there is the police, and then there is the political parties come IPAC. That is the association of political parties that are involved in the whole thing. So the president himself is an interested party. Civil society has come to say that, look, as far as they are concerned, quoting Clement Wanko almost verbatim, that there's nothing injurious to the process of this conducting this 2019 election. That was what he said, and that is the consensus added on among the civil societies. The political parties themselves, nobody is crying wolf. INEC, who is guided, whose modus operandi is guided by the electoral law, is not crying wolf. Then you have an individual who is participating in the process, denying assent to a bill. And I quickly need to say that I saw Femi Gbadabiamila and some other APC people saying that they were going to resist any attempt to override the veto of the people. And I became worried. The act, the bill in question, which the president should sign into an act, was the consensus of the 360 members of the political party, including Femi Gbajabiamila. Let's not forget that before a bill is sent to the president, it goes through first reading, it goes through second reading, it goes through committee, then you bring it back. So in other words, at both levels, you have the opportunity, sir, to make your input. Femi Gbajabiamila and his co-travelers didn't make any such input.
Okay.
Now there is the issue of overriding the veto of the president, and you are playing the ostrich. So for the president to demonstrate that this election will be free and fair, he can't say no.
To ascending to the bill.
You can't say yes, and your head is saying no.
Okay.
You can't say no with your mouth, and your head is saying yes. Your body language, you must ascend to the bill, because if I play table tennis, if you say the breeze is blowing table tennis, it will affect both me and you. Otherwise, we will change side if you feel disadvantaged.
Yes.
So if you think that the law is advantageous to anybody, it's going to affect all of the 92 political parties, and indeed 76 of them who have fielded their candidates. So I want as to the reluctance of the president to signing this bill. I think that is why what is raising suspicion among everybody, among the multi-stakeholders.
All right, Evangelist Tony Akeni, what are your misgivings or otherwise about this fear about the credibility of the 2019 election, interfacing it with some of the points that he raised as it relates to non-signing into law of the Electoral Amendment Act by Mr. President?
Let me start from the top, the presidency, represented by Mr. President himself. One of those things that motivated almost impulsive support by even non-political participants to vote for the Buhari train in 2015 was the man emphasized that when he got into power, things would never be done the way they were done before. What we have now and what is pushing forward for us in 2019 elections is to do things the way they were done before, which is to vote without these card readers, for instance. That those who have territorial supremacy of lawlessness can, within their jurisdiction, impose their will on the system, because there are no scientific measures to restrain thuggery, to restrain the defects of the electoral system. So my first disappointment is that this party which I believed in, this president whom I trusted, is saying that we should still stagnate with that system that has offended every electoral sense, every sense of decency in the affairs of election. What are you resisting if you trust that that same zest is still with the public to bring you to power? For me, I want to advise very strongly that in order for President Buhari to recover the integrity that he had, for APC as a party to reclaim its integrity or make it intact, they should all be, as a matter of fact, in the forefront of agitating for every measure that can make the elections credible. And that includes scientific measures, that includes the card readers first and foremost, that can help the voters be at peace with their conscience, be at peace with themselves, that their votes are going to count. This is my take at this point.
Let me get your views on it, Bishop Austin Igbasa.
Well, the fear is not far-fetched. The fear is that, number one, you look at the antecedent of the president himself. I think this is the first time we have a president that disobeyed the law of appointing an INEC chairman. What we are seeing today is something that has been prepared for.
Is there a law?
It's a law
that appointing.
Yes, the appointment
specifically for
the appointment of INEC chairman must not come from where the jurisdiction or the geopolitical zone where the president or the head of state come from. And I can give you from time immemorial, right from 1966, and you look at it that each of these, at the beginning of INEC, We have Justice Ephraim, part of blessed memory, who was the midwife of that new Nigeria. And after that, we have Dr. Ibe Gubadia. From there to Professor Maurice Iwu. And when you look at the head of state and the president at that time, they were not from the same geopolitical zone. And when we have Yaradua came on board and said, my election that brought me on board was full of irregularity, and I'm going to start to effect electoral change. And he set up a committee headed by the highly respected Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Waits. And they set up the committee made some recommendation, and they acted on the recommendation immediately. And the whole system was changed. And before this government came on board, we had the card reader. And let us not forget the judgment of the governor of Rivers State that made a card reader not to be recognized by law. So, considering the appointment of Yakubu, and also look at that woman there, Minu, in INEC, you begin to look at what is going to happen through INEC. And I also take you back to all the elections conducted by Professor Yakubu until we started shouting. All the elections were inconclusive, in as much you discover that the election is not going to favor the government of the center. You see that they declare inconclusive. If you take your mind back, we have more than 7 elections conducted by this man.
But these elections that were inconclusive was not because it was not going to favor government. There were issues that arose in the course of the election.
We shouted before the election became conclusive. Why is it that a man started an election and his tenure became inconclusive? Is it because we have not had an electoral body before? There are not people who headed electoral. They are not the same Nigeria who voted and the election was declared. Does it mean that those ones have died? That new created people came up when the tenure of this man came on board? Let's check the antecedent of the man, the operation of the man, until we started shouting that at a time INEC was named under him as inconclusive, until we shouted and it became conclusive. And most times when it becomes conclusive, it also goes to favor the center power. And let me also tell you something about the presidency. We have a president who is we are told that is a repentant Democrat, and all the other political parties that won elections that were not his party, none of those governors were appreciated or congratulated by the president to date. But you can take your mind back to Ekiti and Osun. The president was the first person, even when he was on his way to the United Nations, issued a congratulatory message to the Ekiti governorship man, and also the Osun. What happens to Bayelsa State Governor that were not congratulated? What happened to Wike? What happened to Daniel Sushaku? What happened to Udom Emmanuel that were not congratulated today? And in the days of the other political party that were in power, we lost Edo State from Professor Osumbo to Comrade Oshomole. It was the president that congratulated.
When you say we lost Edo State, that
by judiciary.
That makes you partisan.
No, what
when you say we lost,
we are talking of the state. I'm talking about the state. I'm not talking of. I am part of Edo State. Okay. So what I'm just giving a recommendation that look at it in Edo State, the judiciary got it from Professor Osumbo to Comrade Oshomole. Okay. It was the president of the party in power that congratulated first. Yeah. They lost Shagoni to Fayemi in Ekiti State. It was the president at the center. Peter Obi came at Anambra State. It was the president who believes that the president is the president of the country, not for one party. I'm not trying to establish a foundation for you. Why is it that our president failed to congratulate those men, even when they got to Supreme Court?
Okay, let me
pause it. Let me what is their right?
Yeah, let me proceed there.
So we have concern because number one, when you look at all the system of now we are talking about the National Assembly sending it for the 4th time. Why would one man have power to override the wisdom of more than 400 people? Now what happened to...
he has given his reason in that regard.
The reason is that the last government in 2015, 48 hours before the election, President Goodluck Jonathan signed the amendment of electoral law. What are we talking about?
All right, let me bring our other panelists in here because we don't have so much time. Reverend Olu Martins, the election is just around the corner. Would you say that, like 2015, where some say, pre-2015, at this time, the country was already agog with campaigns and all of that. It looks like nothing is happening. It looks like, this is not a pre-election here. What would the fact that we just have a few months to the election? So what in your opinion is making 2018 look this way compared to 2014, 2015?
For us in this part of the world, politics is a winner-take-all thing. Number two, there is the business of politics. then there is the politics of business. Those who do business with politicians are having it tough. For instance, I'm talking about legitimate business. Media houses do legitimate business with politicians. You run adverts. You do some levels of consultations. I'm not privy to the accounts of ITV, but from the questions that you have asked, it's not far-fetched that ITV may also be feeling the impact that the Esusu is not entering now as it did in 2015. People do billboards, all kinds of things. The reason is because when you do business investments, there is first of all the ROI1, return of your investment. Then you have the return on your investments. Just like you have said, there is no party that has set up a state council at the federal level. The president does not have a state council in Edo State coordinating his elections. PDP does not have a state council in Edo State coordinating his elections. Only today, I'm told that Senator Uroide will flag off today, but no other person is flagging off. Reps from Edo North to Edo South, everybody seems to be sitting aloof. And it's because they're asking themselves, if I push XYZ amount of money into the elections, am I going to get, in quote, the value for my money? If I think I'm not going to get it because I think that the process will be skewed from the opposition, I'm going to be careful how much money I put in. Let me minimize my exposure. In banking, it's called risk management. You minimize your risk so that at least if you can consider the rest a bad debt. For those who think that the election is skewed in their favor, they will also be asking themselves, like local government election, why should I spend so much money when no matter what I do, I'm going to emerge as the winner? So the whole of the economics around this 2019 election borders on the body language of the presidency with regards to the electoral law and then with regards to staggered election in the state. Whether falsely, rightly or wrongly, there is a suspicion across board that these elections, the election may not be free, fair, and transparent. So if you are participating, whether for or against, if you think that you win, you'll be asking yourself, why should I spend so much money? If you don't think that you win, you also want to ask yourself,
why should I spend so much? Okay, let me get Tony in. Where is the what are your thoughts on the level of awareness on the part of the people in terms of participation? Are the political parties doing what they're supposed to do to conscientize the people, talk to the people, get them involved in this process?
I think that the level is high, even if it may not be visible. Visible in the form of electoral bunting, flag-off festivities that we used to know before now. The amount of social media engagements in this election, you can actually say that it is like 5 times the involvement of social media engagements in previous elections. What people have resorted to do in the absence of money, seas of money to throw away, is to engage each other online, in WhatsApp, in the internet, discussing. Nigeria is, I think, the most discussed political territory
right now
on earth today. And it is not derived from the pockets or financial budgetary plans of politicians.
Okay.
The plans are in the hands of so many. I am aware that the call for PVC, for people to obtain their PVCs, went far, and a lot of people across the country, they have their PVCs ready.
Okay.
And it is not going to be, their participation is not going to be determined by the amount of street politicking that we have been used to. It's going to be determined by the amount of pleasures or pains that Nigerians have derived from this last 4 years.
Okay, let's say that as we gradually call it a wrap. Now, Bishop Austin Igbasan, what's your take on the level of political conscientization by political parties. Are we focusing on the issues, or we're still doing it in the days of yore where we focus on the personalities?
Even the issue is that you cannot remove the personality from the issue. And if you are going to talk about a man, you talk about who he is and what he has done. I think that the political party, on my own view, have not been able to get to the grassroots, but I think Nigerians are awake. They are more awakened in their own self now to say we are going to participate. But I think the political party have not done so much to reach out to the grassroots people. Maybe for the sake of, if we reach out to them, what do we pass across, or what do we have to spend looking at the situation around us, that the election, just like my brother have said here, Olumatin, may not be free and fair. It is not about somebody saying it is going to be a free and fair election, but we must demonstrate it. If people have looked at it and they say, oh, this is what we feel will make this election credible, and you cannot sign that thing that will make the election credible, there is no amount of English you are going to pass across to us that it is going to be credible, that will not be underage voting, that will not be massive voting, bringing people from Chad and Niger and other countries and packing them around. Well, we can see even in our cities now, we see all of them all around us, everywhere, roaming around the place like mercenary or roaming around as labor. I feel that the political party have not done so much to reach out to the grassroots. But I think Nigerians on their own, because of their experience in this government we have been, have woken up to say, okay, we are going to do, like my own, I forgot my own PVC UK, I brought it now, because we are going to do the same way we did in 2015.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you for your time. I would have loved to take us further, but that's the much we have on the discussion segment on TMI Monday. Reverend Olumatin, thank you so much for your time. Evangelist Tony Akeni, I won't forget that next time. Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure.
And Bishop Austin Igbasan, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's still TMI Monday with yours sincerely. The news update is next, and I'll be back to chat with Dr. Brightons Ogiwonyi after this short break. Don't go away.